Today on Locked On Red Wings, Michael Rasmussen signs a 4-year extension with the Red Wings. Is it fair value?
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily J, a WWJ News Radio podcast, while Scotty's host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Scotty, pretty fun day ahead of us. I was kind of walking into today wondering, what are we going to talk about on our Wednesday episode? And I had a couple ideas, kind of mixing around in that pea-sized brain of mine. But then, news drop. Michael Rasmussen, 4-year deal, $3.2 million AAV. And without spoiling the main question, that is this episode, the fair value question we were going to get to, what was your instant reaction to the extension?
Hell yeah, brother. I think that was kind of my initial reaction. I also had the thought of, I feel like we just have like the most poorly timed like episodes and segments ever. Like not you would never disrespect Rasmussen, but I like in segment 3 was like, yeah, like he won't stick on the first line. No chance. Yesterday, and then of course he gets a contract extension. Like
well,
it doesn't change. He's not getting paid first line money, but
yeah,
it's just funny timing. Like we always seem to have just like really unique timing. I'll put it that way.
I think you can be right on the first line take, but also say he deserved an extension because right. I think that's true.
Yeah, that's where I stand for sure. So yeah, man, I'm really pumped for him. What a career. Like that's really honestly, I guess that was my first like coherent thought other than just hell yeah. Was
it was just a cymbal monkey clapping in your brain, and then all of a sudden it was what a career.
Most of the day, to be honest. But yeah, that I think was my first real thought was just, man, like what a career, like first round pick, and everybody has these expectations. And then it's, he was viewed as like a disappointment, and the fan base kind of like not necessarily turned on him, but just kind of expectations for him fell off really hard, really quickly. And then he reestablished himself over these last 2 seasons, specifically as a guy that can give you really, really solid production in that bottom 6, can be a really effective winger. They talked about it. All the beat writers brought it up today or yesterday as you're listening to this because of the extension. But last season, every single player wanted to play with Rasmussen. That was like the big talking point, was everybody loved sharing lines with him. Yeah, man, like he just good for him is really, we'll talk about the hockey side of things and whatnot, but he figured out his role. He figured out how to excel in his role. He figured out how to use his body, which was like the whole point of, drafting him in the first. Like he figured it out and figured out how he can play the game of hockey at the highest possible level. And I think there's still room to grow too, which is kind of even more exciting to tag onto it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I echo a lot of those sentiments. This is a guy who was taken 9th overall all the way back in 2017, I think it was. Double check on that one. Yeah, 2017, 9th overall. He was considered a reach, and I mean, you could argue probably still was based on the type of player he is, but regardless, he is the player that Ken Holland took, and he has, like you said, after years of criticism, kind of blossomed into a really nice middle bottom 6 winger at the NHL level. He does a fantastic job using his body to protect the puck, using his body to win battles in the corner. He's great net front presence at deflecting shots and screening goaltenders. And he's just a heart and hustle kind of guy. You brought up the fact that everyone last year wanted to play with him prior to his injury. And he's on pace again for another career high in points. He had 29 points in 56 games last year. He's got 23 so far in 55. So with the added benefit of having another near 30 games, he's going to crush that career high in points. Not quite the same pace as he was on last year, but that was because of a slow start. He's really turned it around here as the calendar turned, like a few players have for the Detroit Red Wings. So, I mean, when I got the news, and I've been a big Michael Rasmussen defender, right? Even though I recognize he's probably not a top line guy, I think most people can say that he isn't without, much scrutiny
Yeah.
on that take. I've loved what Michael Rasmussen was turning into at the end of the season 2 years ago, at the end of the 22 year. Then all the 23 season, he was electric. 23, 24 started off kind of slow, has kind of caught a groove lately. When I got the extension news, I was like you, hell yeah, this is my boy. And he deserved it. And I think that brings us to the next question, right? Like, is it fair value? 3 years or 4 years rather, that starts next year because he was going to be an RFA at the end of this season. So at the start of next year, it's going to kick in at 4 years, $3.2 million a year. For a guy who's going to have a career high, if he stays healthy, around 35 points based on the pace he's on, is that fair value for Michael Rasmussen?
Yeah, I have zero issue with the contract or the value. Genuinely, I think that assuming that he, obviously you can say this about every single contract, so like not really just subjected to him, but as long as he stays on the ice and is a fixture in that bottom six, doing the role that he's done the last 2 years, I don't see any way in which that's not perfectly acceptable value from the Wings' perspective. I don't even really have too much else to say. Like, yes, I have zero issue with the value, with the AAV, the years. He's obviously young enough. I could care less about 4 years. Yeah, I'm all about it. This is perfectly fine by me.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at Cap Friendly's comparable contracts, Matthew Joseph of the Ottawa Senators is one that brought up. He's having a career year this season. In 42 games, he's got 27 points. His career high before this season was just 18 points in 56 games played. But that contract, he's making $2.9 million a year, I believe it is. That contract was signed in 2022 in a flat cap. This cap has risen, and it's going to raise again this offseason. A few more $1 million. So by the end of this contract, this is going to be viewed at, even if you are on the side of maybe we paid him a little bit too much, by the end of this contract, this is going to look like a good deal, a good team-friendly deal. And I think that's honestly what it is. I think this is fair value. Other comparables that Cap Friendly has is Eetu Luisterainen. I'm trying my best on that one, of the Florida Panthers. He makes $1.5 million a season with a $3 million cap hit kicking in next year. So that's his extension. That's the comparable contract for him. He had a career high of 43 points in 82 games last year, not much higher than what Michael Rasmussen's on pace for. This year, he's only got 16 points in 55 games played. Similar guy, 6'3" forward, with 184 pounds. Just like these guys who are of his size, his frame, his point production. I don't know to like the nuances of their game to know if they're 1-for-1 good comparables, but this is what Cap Friendly gave me. Based on size and production, these are very good comparables in a cap that is going up. So in a couple of years, you're going to look back and be like, yeah, that was a team-friendly deal for a guy, let's face it, who does everything for the Detroit Red Wings. The only situation that you don't put him in for, like, consistent basis is power play. But that's not to say he hasn't played power play before. He has had net front.
Got some looks as the net front guy on the power play before, for sure.
But I mean, he's a penalty kill specialist, especially. I mean, he's electric at the penalty kill. He and Andrew Kopp have been great all year long. Two big reasons why the penalty kill is 7th in the league to this point. Obviously, the defensemen get tons of credit for that too, like Moritz Seider, Jake Wallman, Ben Sherratt, Jeff Petrie, Oli Mata at times. Like, those guys all get huge credit for how great the penalty kill is. But when it comes to the forwards, Michael Rasmussen and Andrew Kopp have been two of the best at it. So when it comes to this deal, I don't have any qualms with it. I think the only thing I could have qualms with, and we don't know the details of this yet, is if he has any no movement clause. Even then, if it's like a 7 or 10 player or 7 to 10 team, no movement clause, I'm fine with it. If it's full trade, no trade clause, then maybe I'm like, okay, you didn't have to give Michael Rasmussen full no trade clause, but we don't know that. So based on what we do know, good deal, great deal.
Yeah, I have seriously. I mean, this is you mentioned the cap going up, which I think is lost on a lot of people, like for like gut, like initial reactions to contracts a lot of times. Myself, really more in speaking for myself more than anybody else there, to be honest. Something that's nice to keep in the back of your mind for sure is that the cap goes up pretty frequently and is going to go up in the NHL here. But yeah, I again, for a guy that can be a fixture on your penalty kill and your bottom six, and really has carved out his role really well. This gives you a kind of rock solid like safety net down there in the lineup, which for as much as we talk about how much you need the top end talent, you need the high end production, having that, in your bottom six and for depth purposes is just as important. And he has really, really flourished the last couple of years. I'm pumped for the team, obviously, but I'm thrilled for Michael Rasmussen. He's put in a lot of work, I'm sure, to be able to get to this point. It's a point that if you'd have asked 2 calendar years ago if we'd be, having this conversation, I think most people, myself included, would have said no.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, even if his production, you said earlier that he still has room to grow. I don't know how much more, personally, I don't know how much growing he has left to do.
No, this is the type of player he will always be, for sure. The profile is not going to change.
Not to say that he couldn't break through, right, to hit another level of production to be in that consistent 45, 50-point range, but I doubt it at this point. He's 24 years old. Usually by now we kind of have a grasp on what a player is. Not always the case. Obviously, a guy like Dylan Larkin, around 26, 25, 26 is when he really started hitting his. But the thing is with Larkin is you saw the hints of it. I think with Rasmussen, 40 points, 45 points is probably his peak. And if that is what it is, then that's perfectly fine. Even if he's on pace for 34 points this year. If that's what it is, that's still perfectly fine. If that's the player he is, given the utility that he has, that I have no qualms with this contract.
Sure.
The only thing I would have problems with if he has like a full no trade clause, or if he just completely tanks in production or just
obviously
on the ice skill set. But we're paying the player based on what we see right now. And the player we see right now is good. So.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, Scotty, let's talk about the top line. We're singing the praises of Michael Rasmussen, but we're going to come back and talk about the top line. We had a conversation about it at the end of the episode yesterday. I wanted to expand on that a little bit more as this team tries to figure out what that fourth top six winger is. They keep cycling and figuring out matchups. We'll have that conversation for the final 2 segments of Locked On Red Wings. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search. Match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. You ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need Indeed? Or needs a hire? You need Indeed.
Indeed you do.
Also got to talk to you guys today about FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Scotty, I'll be very happy to announce I took the Red Wings plus odds against the Seattle Kraken. Forgot to mention it on yesterday's show.
That's bold, man. I respect it. I really struggle with putting my own teams out there. That feels like a double-edged sword. If it
That's why you
go
only
your
report.
Way, but it also double the reward when it does. So
that's why you only report the wins, never report the losses.
I haven't reported anything in a while, so I think that's pretty telling. But
anyway, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your first bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players with teams bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Segment 3 or segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. I'm going through it right
On a
now.
roll, baby.
You called me out on my losses, and it shook me. It shook
Dude's
me.
rattled.
I'm rattled. Anyways, segment
In
2
a
of Locked On Red
blender.
Wings. You know, it's a shame too because we killed it in that segment 1. I thought.
I know.
I thought we were
And
on a
now you're
roll.
in an absolute blender. You know what else is a blender? That top line. That wing especially. It's been in a blender lately.
Just 10 out of 10 segue by Scotty Bentley right there. Mad props, buddy.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Oh yeah. Wait, you get paid? Anyways, so yes, we talked a little bit at the end of yesterday's episode about the top lines recently. The last 2 games we've seen that blender in all 4 lines, but most notably the top 6, right? We've seen the promotion of Michael Rasmussen up to the top line, playing on a wing with Patrick Kane, Dylan Larkin centering. The second line now consists of Comfer, Raymond, and DeBrincat. And where that second line is really finding a groove, I felt Lucas Raymond doing a nice job, driving the play, finding space, making passes. JT Comfer being the two-way center that's just dependable as you need.
Dude,
and DeBrincat.
Cat and Raymond on the same line is an electric factory, man. No matter who you have up the middle, right? And like Comfer's been great, obviously, but I mean that's a lot of speed and a lot of I don't know, just like dynamic play on the outside. That's really an exciting combo to put together.
Yeah, I mean it really is, and DeBrincat too. We've had our qualms about the lack of goal scoring he's had, but that's not to take away from everything else he's doing right, because it really does. And while he's not the most defensively responsible player, their effort is there. You see him trying. And I think that he's been a great asset to that second line or top line, whatever he's playing with. And he's been great. He and Raymond together, like you said. But it's just trying. I think it's a mix of one, trying to figure out who to put on the wing opposite of Patrick Kane, but also trying to figure out who another bona fide top 6 winger is for the Detroit Red Wings. Because I think as the season has gone on, we've learned quickly that this team has 3 top six wingers, not 4. And you need 4, and you need line consistency to really succeed.
Who are the 3?
Kane, Raymond, and DeBrincat.
Okay.
Who'd you think I was going to say?
No. In my head, I was just thinking, forwards, and you said wingers. So I was like, where is Dylan Larkin? It would be 4, but it's the same. It's the same concept, just different math. But yes, we're on the same page, because I was just thinking one off, and you were thinking one off for the wings. I didn't
list the centers because in my eyes, there's no question that it's Comfer and Larkin right now,
of course.
Which is why I'm focusing on the wingers.
Again, it was just in my head, I was thinking, 5 of 6 in the top 6, and you were thinking 3 of 4 in the wing specifically.
Yeah, and that top line. So the top 6 got blendered up 2 games ago, right? Going into the Calgary Flames game, and the Red Wings won 5-0. So you're going to run back with that. But in that game, the top line of Rasmussen, Kane, and Larkin didn't really do a whole lot, even less so against Seattle Kraken. They had a 13% share at 5-on-5 expected goals for percentage in that game. And I can understand, right, Scotty, the pieces and why they're there on the top line and why you're trying it out. Michael Rasmussen, we just sung his praises, right? Wins the puck battles, hard forechecker, good puck protector. He's great at tipping shots. Patrick Kane is a phenomenal distributor. He gets it. You get into the zone, you get possession with Rasmussen, you give Patrick Kane the puck, he can distribute the puck. Dylan Larkin can do a little bit of everything. He's got speed, he forechecks, he can play some defense. Most notably, he's the goal scorer of that line. So you see the pieces there and why they work. But the reason I think it's not working right now in these last 2 games is because of the fact that there's not enough speed on that line. Dylan Larkin is really, really fast, but he cannot do it all on his own. As good as Michael Rasmussen is at forechecking, in a dump and chase scenario, if you're not able to cleanly enter the zone, which is odd because Larkin and Kane are generally the only 2 who can cleanly enter the zone. If you're dumping and chasing, Michael Rasmussen's not going to have a fast enough footwork to get there on time. And I think that is one of the chief reasons that's killing them, on top of the fact that they just were struggling on breaking out of the zone too, which was really bizarre. So my question to you first, Scotty, is this just they need more time to work and build chemistry together? And 2, if not, who do you put on that top line?
Do you want to go to a break or fire away right now?
Answer the first question for me. We'll leave the who you put on the first line for segment 3.
Yeah. I'm in an interesting position with it right now. I think I am willing to continue riding it. And maybe that's more to do with how good I think lines 2 and 3 have looked lately. So like I'm kind of like, you know what? We're winning, but like the second and third line, second line specifically has looked really good. So I'm willing to see if this first line can maybe catch fire, because if we can get all three of those clicking, then we're talking about a team that could really get hot again. But I don't disagree with your stance here either, and that they do need more speed. I think that's something that's the reason that Perron got moved from top line early in the season, right? I mean, least we forget at the beginning part of the year, DP was at that top line at one point, and he got moved pretty quickly just because of that reason. Like, he just doesn't have speed, and so they've been cycling a lot of guys there. Obviously, Cat was there at the very, very beginning of the season. And there's been a lot of mixing and matching, but so I don't disagree with you, but I'm also like, until we see a like catastrophic implosion of, not even, I guess it doesn't even really need to be that dramatic, until we see, like the team is losing and, your top line just can't produce. And it's the reason why we're losing hockey games, then I guess I'm kind of down to see if they do pick up some chemistry. I don't know. It's a long-winded answer, but it's a weird spot I'm kind of at with it, where it's like, oh, it's only 2 games. Let's see if maybe something can work here. But also, I don't disagree with anything you said either. I think long-term, this probably is not it, as I've said since yesterday.
That is exactly it. I think long-term, it's not the solution, but because the team has won back-to-back games and that second line has looked very good, they might run it back a couple more games and just see if it improves and see if the chemistry improves. If at that point it hasn't, then we'll address it. And I have a suggestion on who to try on that top line coming back in segment 3.
Oh, that's called a teaser, folks.
It is. I'm the best in the biz. I don't want to tell you. Anyways, here's an ad. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, Scotty, you get what?
You burn rubber, not cash, baby.
Absolutely. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, I teased you at the end of segment 2 there about a suggestion I would make, and I want to gauge your temperature here on this player. Somebody I like to hitch my wagon to a player that's kind of soaring under the radar for having a bounce back or an improved year. Last year was Michael Rasmussen. This year was Joe Veleno. And he's a guy who, when Larkin and Comfer were out, was centering the line between DeBrincat and Kane when Kane made his debut with the Detroit Red Wings. Now, I'm not saying Joe Veleno should center any of the top 6 lines, but as we've seen, he got a promotion to playing wing on line 3. Line 3 has looked good. I'm saying try him out on wing in the top 6, because I think he could provide the solution to my issue with that top line, and that is the speed. Joe Veleno hustles, and he's really good at it. He's a phenomenal forechecker. He brings a lot of speed, and he has some scoring and passing ability that I think is untapped and still growing a little bit. I know he was taken in the 2018 draft, I believe. He was the 30th overall pick. We got him in the Tatar trade, his draft pick in the Tatar trade from Vegas, their first rounder. So how much left does he have left to grow, right? I just said Rasmussen, drafted a year earlier, is probably close to his ceiling. Joe Veleno might be similar, but I've seen flashes this year in an overall bounce back year, in a prove it contract year for him, where I think this guy could bring what the line of Larkin and Kane needs. So I'm saying, Scotty, try him out. See what you got.
You know, I'm not gonna shoot down any idea. To be honest with you, like again, like we're at a point where um we've just been cycling players and we're just trying to see what sticks. And there's, like I said, and like you said as well, there's 5 kind of mainstays in that top 6. And so the team has been cycling through and kind of desperately trying to find what that 6th kind of person is going to be. And I'm not gonna say no to anything. Sure, I'm more than down to try it. If we're trying Michael Rasmussen, we might as well try Joe Veleno at some point too. I certainly don't hate it. I think that there's if he does have untapped potential and there is kind of a second gear to I think the playmaking and the scoring, then he could end up, being a fixture up there. But I think that does also need to happen for him to be a fixture up there. Speed alone is not going to get the job done by itself. And, in the same way that Michael Rasmussen's intangibles with, his size and defense is what's going to get him a look up there. Veleno's speed might get him a look. It's just a matter of whether he has the production that is needed to kind of solidify a top 6 or even, in this case, a first line, spot on a playoff team.
Yeah, and he's also no slouch defensively either. He's not the best in the biz, but he hustles hard on both ends of the ice, which is why I like him a lot. Because obviously one of the big gripes with Patrick Kane, if they're like the few gripes there are, is that he doesn't really play very good defense. And he makes up for that by just possessing the heck out of the puck. But I think if you're going to try dump and chase hockey, if you can't get the clean zone entry, he's going to win the race to the puck. He's going to get you possession in the offensive zone. He's going to be able to get that puck to Patrick Kane. And then he's got the speed, a decent enough hands to do something with it if Patrick Kane can set him up. Now, ultimately, I'd love to see Kane and DeBrincat back together because, that connection's unreal. But you need somebody who can win that race to the puck and be that hardcore forechecker besides Dylan Larkin. You can't have your center be the only one hustling for a puck. So I like that idea. He's already set a career high in points. He's got 23 points in 53 games played. That's near half point per game. Same level of production as Michael Rasmussen, who's playing on that line right now. I'd like to give it a shot. I'm not saying it's going to be the solution, but we've tried everything else, right? We've tried Perron on the wing. We've tried Fabry on the wing. We've tried now Michael Rasmussen on the wing. Sprong has gotten looks here and there. He hasn't gotten a consistent look, but I also don't think that that's the solution.
I don't think it's long term either. But if we're trying people, I'd put Kane with I'd put Kane with Sprong and see what happens. I mean, we've seen it. They've connected multiple times on the power play. Why not 5-on-5 as well? That would be kind of my my advocate if we're just trying stuff. You know what I mean? Why not?
Yeah, my issue with Sprong is he doesn't hustle defensively whatsoever, and you can't add that with Patrick Kane. And I think that Sprong's thriving in the role that he has. I think you don't want to take him out of that because you need that depth scoring there. But that's a different conversation. And I'd be willing to try it too if everything else fails, right? You're trying to figure something else out. The other option is...
That's my point. Is like, I'm not saying no to anybody. We're just rotating this thing through at this point.
And I mean, with a stuffed roster, you don't really have room to call up a Jonathan Berggren. Jonathan Berggren's bad defensively too, for what it's worth, even though he's lightening up AHL. He's got great hands, good puck IQ in the offensive zone. His defensive positioning is the big reason why he's still in the Grand Rapids with the Grand Rapids Griffins. So if he gets called up, he's not going to jump up to the top 6 regardless until he can improve that. I'd love long-term that to be the solution, but I don't, with the log jam on the roster you have, it's not going to be him. So the only route you could go, if you can't figure it out, is to either stay the course and just deal with it and hope you make the playoffs regardless, or try and acquire somebody through trade at the trade deadline. And that's a whole different conversation, a whole different topic for another day. So if you're trying to find a solution on this roster right now, and this top line of Rasmussen, Larkin, and Kane can't get gelling and can't get going, I say try Joe Veleno. But that's personal bias. I love my underdogs on the Red Wings roster, which is kind of crazy that 2 first-round picks were underdogs. But, I mean, it happens. It happens.
Yeah, it's true, though. Yeah, no, fine. Like I said, not really in a position. I don't think anybody's really in a position to be like, absolutely not. That's like we're just all trying to figure out who that 6th forward in the top 6 is going to be. So
absolutely. Do you have any final thoughts, buddy, as we sign off for our Wednesday episode?
I don't think so, man. We ball.
We do ball. If you guys have any other options or opinions on who
Yeah,
you think,
I'm
love to
down
hear
to hear anything out. So
we're good. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. We're going to preview the game against the Colorado Avalanche. A tough matchup back at home at LCA. So stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. See your team every day.
every day.